Well, let me first thank everybody for being here in the middle of lunchtime. So that's, I know, can be a challenge sometime. What I'm going to try to do, too, is over the next 15 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less, talk to you about what are some of the issues with transformation of either a market research firm or if you are working within the internal insights group of a corporation, some of the issues that are required to really become good at transformation. And transformation, of course, is something that's really, really important right now. The world is changing. If you've heard some of the other speakers from the morning sessions, we live in a very different world today than we have lived in the past. And if we as researchers, if we as research organizations, be it internal or be it an external research company, don't change, our lifespan is limited. So what I'm going to do is I have an ebook coming out in a few weeks that talks about transformational change. What I thought I'd do today is just share with you sort of the top 10 things that I've learned based on some work that I've done over the past 18 months. So let me sort of start with a show of hands. So how many of you, whether you work for a research company or an internal insights function, believe that company or function needs to change what they do and how they do it to better serve your clients? Show of hands. Don't be bashful. Show of hands. Very good. Okay. So what's very interesting is in the work that we did for the quarter 3, quarter 4 grit report, which was published the end of last year, there is one in the bags you got today, 76% of the individuals that we spoke with said they felt the need to transform. Now, if that's not a mandate, I'm not really sure what is. But we certainly, as I said, live in a time of change. So status quo is not in the cards. And in fact, I've often talked to people and said, look, you've got two options. You can change, you can figure out what it is you need to do, or you can stick your head in the sand and hope it goes away. And of course, we all know hope is not a great strategy. So let me tell you a little bit about what I did and how I did it. I've got many people to thank for this. You can see the logos that are coming out. So over the past 18 months, I've talked to some of the leading CEOs in the industry who have actually done something to change their company, to transform their firm from what it was to something more competitive, something that is in fact doing very well in a period of disruption. These companies, these CEOs, have demonstrated that it can be done, and they keep their businesses vibrant by what they do. In the ebook, there's a little case study of each one of these companies that will give you some more insight there. But the one thing that's very true is when you talk to these individuals, these firms, they'll tell you the transformation is evolutionary. It's not revolutionary. And in fact, 3/4 of the people that we talked to in the grit survey agreed with that. We're talking about an evolutionary process that has to be part of the firm culture, has to be part of what leadership really does believe. And that's perhaps one of the really key points. So I'm going to share with you relatively quickly 10 themes for transformational success. Now, these are not rules, they are not laws, they are not absolutes. They are simply 10 themes for transformational success. And why are they themes? Because transformation is going to be different for every company out there. Different set of circumstances, different set of people that work there, different business environments that they have to operate in. Transformation is unique to each of the firms that are there. So let's start with the first one. The first one's really important. What's the goal? The goal is not change for change's sake. The goal is to increase the enterprise value of the organization. Now, if you're a research company, you talk about enterprise value in terms of financials. What are we worth? How do we, in fact, increase our work? If you're an internal organization or part of an internal insights group, you're talking about what's the value we bring to our internal clients. But in either case, it's very important to keep front and center why you are doing this. It's because you want to increase the enterprise value, the value that, in fact, you bring to your constituents. Why is that important? It helps you do a number of things. It helps you attract better employees. Any of us that have either worked for a company or worked at a research firm that has a great reputation know that, in fact, it makes it easier to bring in better talent when you're known for being great. It gives you the latitude to invest in new ideas, and that's what this is all about. And it gives you a higher profile in the industry, which will result in either more leads if you're a research company for business, or if you're an internal insights group, that pull that's so important to really get traction from the constituents you are working with. Ultimately, though, what you're looking to do is become a better version of yourself. And that's really what this becomes. Rule number 2, theme number 2, be a student of trends outside the industry. The single biggest criticism I can lay on the market research industry is we spend too much time talking to ourselves. We don't spend time looking outside what's going on. The reason that we pay $4 for a cup of coffee is because Howard Schultz sat in a cafe bar in Europe and said, hey, isn't this a great idea? Brought it to the US. Starbucks was actually reborn. It was something else before he started doing things. So you need to be a student of the industry. And whether it's you going out and looking at trends, going to conferences outside of the industry, whether it's somebody on your staff who's really passionate about doing this, doesn't matter. But it's really key, really critical to bring that external insight in, because if you don't understand trends that are impacting our industry more broadly, these could be technology trends or other trends, but if you don't understand the broader context of trends, then you're going to be missing some really important themes. This is one of my favorites. Love customers who want to be pioneers. It takes two to tango. It takes two, if not more, to transform. You're going to have some great ideas, and Steve Schlesinger of Schlesinger Associates refers to this as cliff jumping with clients. I think that's just a great visual. Think about it, cliff jumping with clients. You don't know whether it's going to be successful, but you're willing to try it. So transformation depends on whether it is, again, an internal customer that you've got, if you're an internal insights group, or an external customer. It depends on finding those customers who are willing to take a little leap with you, try something different, new product, new service, new process. You need to have customers who want to be pioneers in what you are doing. Now that's linked to this next one. Learn to fail fast and fail forward. If I can identify one of the common threads of conversation in the blogs that I've written from CEOs, again, it is this. Now, what's the issue with failing fast and failing forward? Well, it's a scary thing. It's really scary for an employee to be willing to fail because their job is on the line. Right? And so it becomes the importance of leadership to really embrace the concept of failing fast. Now, the really important words here are "and forward." So fail fast, don't spend too much time trying to beat a dead horse. That's something too many people do. But at the same time, use that learning in a proactive way to inform the next thing you do, the next thing you try to change, the next service you try to improve, the next process you try to reinvent. Use that learning. And if you do that and embrace this concept of failing fast and failing forward, transformation becomes part of the culture. Plan strategically and thoughtfully. How many of you have a strategic plan that's just sitting on the shelf? At least one. Well, I'm surprised there's not a lot more. Whether you're planning for 3 years or 5 years or whatever the time period may be, planning needs to be a group activity. Why is that? Because long-term transformation, having transformation become part of the environment is a group activity. Everybody needs to embrace it. Everybody needs to understand it. Everybody needs to want to buy into it. So when you do strategic planning, it has to be a group activity to start. And then what's really important, the pragmatic part of this, is you need to have both annual and quarterly goals. You need to review where are you relative to those quarterly goals or those annual goals. What's working, what's not, and if it's not working, why not? Really important to revisit this stuff each quarter. Another theme, innovate pragmatically. Jeff Reynolds and Dave Sackman from LRW are probably the best at this that I've ever run across. And what this essentially means is don't bet the farm. Yes, there are some long shots that win, but there are many more long shots that lose. So you need short shots. You need lots of different ideas. You need ideas that are going to help you change what you're doing. Again, new products, new services. The way you do it is first you vet a range of potential ideas. Then you provide a little bit of funding or time to really work that idea. See if you can sell it, if it's an internal process to the internal group, if it's to an external customer to the external customer. See if you can sell it, and if you can, broaden the scope and invest a little more, try to sell more. Another theme, embrace co-opetition. What is co-opetition? It's working with people that are sometimes competitors. I'll tell you that the more time you spend in activities that don't add core value to what you're all about, the more time you are wasting. Find those things that aren't core to the value you bring to your clients and find a partner who can probably do them better than you are. You'll make new friends along the way, and you'll find that life becomes a whole lot easier because you're not going to need to be investing on things that somebody can probably do better. This is one of my favorites. If the train has left the station and you're beginning to change and an employee doesn't want to be on that train, get them off. Attitude is something you should never, ever try to manage. It just isn't worth the time or the effort. Doesn't mean you might not have a key employee who you want to sit down, have a couple conversations with, give them a chance. But ultimately, if they're not on the train, get them off. You don't want them there. They're going to hurt your ability to change. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Why? Because you need to build trust within your organization. If you're going through a period of change and you're not communicating about it and you're not saying why we are doing this and why it's important, you're going to create a lot of angst that just isn't going to be very productive. This doesn't mean sending an email, by the way. Communication is a lot more than sending an email. And George Bernard Shaw very insightfully said, the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. We're talking about town halls. We're talking about getting together with employees on a regular basis and talking with them about what's going on and why it's going on. But you can never communicate too much during a period of transformation. And finally, dream big. If you're talking about change, dream big. Because sometimes dreams do become reality. If we look at many of the companies that are attending IIeX, started small, became big. If we talk about some of the companies that have been around for 20 or 30 years that have started a new line of business, a new product that has grown rapidly, dream big because sometimes dreams become reality. I will tell you, though, that to really engage in transformation, you've got to be a little bit of an entrepreneur. And what are the two things that an entrepreneur needs? They need a rich uncle, help fund it, because that's always a problem. But they need a lot of patience. Transformation takes time. It's an evolution. It's not a revolution. It's important to understand, but it can be done, and I think that whether you're, again, in an internal group or an external group, the best days of market research and insights are really ahead of us, not behind us. And just look around everything going on at IIeX, and you have to come away with the same conclusion. So with that, let me simply say thank you. Certainly happy to answer some questions, and my ebook will be out in just a few weeks, promoted through Green Book, so look for that.
But first we have to thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful job, Jeff.
Thank you.
CEO, Stakeholder Advisory Services. Do we have questions for Jeff? Because I certainly have a couple, and I'm sure that there are some on your minds. Questions? So, go ahead.
Dream big and innovate small. Could you comment on how those two are compatible?
Sure. I think that if you've got a long-term goal, long-term vision, certainly you need a path to get there. And I think that path to get there is a series of small, very pragmatic steps. And that's why the strategic planning piece is so important.
I really liked the don't bet the farm advice, too, because we only hear about the long shots that win.
That's right.
It's a skewed sample.
It is.
Versus
It's a
the
very
long
skewed
shots
sample.
that fail. I love that. So I've, like many people here, I'm sure, worked a lot on organizational transformation. It's often really hard to get started.
Yeah.
What are some of the very first things that you have to do to get people moving on the train?
Well, my experience is that the hardest thing is simply just to get started, to figure out, to sit down and say, look, we want to start down this process. Let's start to think through what are the most important things we need to do within this organization to start the conversation. Mm-hmm. Once the conversation starts, things tend to take on their own life.
I also appreciated, though it might sound harsh, if they're not on the train, don't give them a ticket.
Yeah.
Because I've worked very hard on those things before, too, and sometimes it's just not going to happen.
And the employees are often better off for it.
Right, right. Other questions for Jeff? Okay.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much.